The auditorium is silent. 500 students hold their breath as a 14-year-old black boy stands alone on stage, his hands hovering over the keys of a grand piano. The spotlight catches the beads of sweat on his forehead. In the front row, Principal Robert Mitchell sits with his arms crossed, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. He's waiting for this boy to fail. But just 2 weeks ago, this same principal had publicly humiliated this boy in front of the entire school. He told him he'd never amount to anything. He laughed at his dreams. He made him the punchline of a cruel joke that echoed through every hallway. So, how did we get here? What happened in those 2 weeks that led to this moment? And what is Jamal Carter about to do that will change everything? This is a story about judgment, about hidden talent, and about the moment when silence becomes the loudest sound in the room. Jamal Carter was invisible. Not literally, of course, but in the way that 14-year-old boys from the wrong side of town often are. He walked through the halls of Riverside High School with his head down, his worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floors, his backpack hanging off one shoulder like it was too heavy to carry properly. He lived in a small apartment on the east side with his mother, Diana, who worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. A nurse during the day, a waitress 3 nights a week. Jamal watched her leave before dawn and return after dark, her face lined with exhaustion, but her eyes always soft when she looked at him. Their apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen where the cabinet doors didn't quite close right. But there was music. Always music. Diana had a small radio that she kept in the kitchen, and it played constantly. Jazz, blues, classical, gospel. She said music was medicine for the soul, and Lord knows they needed all the medicine they could get. Jamal had discovered his love for piano 5 years ago quite by accident. The community center 3 blocks from his apartment had an old upright piano in the corner of the recreation room. Most kids ignored it. The keys were yellowed with age, some stuck when you pressed them, and it was perpetually out of tune. But to Jamal, it was everything. He would go there after school when the center was mostly empty, and he would play. At first, he didn't know what he was doing. His fingers found the keys by instinct, pressing combinations that sounded right, learning by trial and error. But then, something remarkable happened. The woman who ran the center, Mrs. Patterson, noticed him. She had studied music in college decades ago, and she saw something in this quiet boy hunched over the broken-down piano. She started teaching him. Nothing formal, nothing structured, just showing him where to put his fingers, how to read the basic notation, how to feel the rhythm in his bones. Jamal absorbed it all like a sponge in water. He practiced every day sometimes for hours, losing himself in the music, until Mrs. Patterson had to gently remind him it was time to go home. His talent was undeniable, but Jamal never told anyone about it. Not his classmates, not his teachers. Music was his secret, his sanctuary, the one place where he felt like he had control over something. In a life where so much felt uncertain, where his mother worked herself to exhaustion, and they never quite had enough, the piano was his constant. But Jamal had a dream. A quiet dream, one he barely whispered even to himself. He wanted to study music, really study it. He wanted to go to one of those prestigious academies where students wore concert blacks and performed in halls with perfect acoustics. He wanted to be a pianist, a real one. It seemed impossible. Kids like him didn't get those opportunities. Kids from his neighborhood were supposed to have practical dreams. Trade school, maybe community college, if they were lucky. Music was a hobby, not a future. But still he dreamed. Principal Robert Mitchell had been in education for 25 years. He had taught history for 10 years before moving into administration, and he'd been principal of Riverside High for the past 7. He was 52 years old, with graying hair that he kept neatly trimmed wire-rimmed glasses that he adjusted constantly, and a posture that suggested military training even though he'd never served. Mitchell prided himself on running a tight ship. Riverside High had improved under his leadership. Test scores were up. Discipline infractions were down. The school had a reputation for being orderly, structured, safe. Mitchell believed in rules, in standards, in maintaining expectations. He would have told you he treated all students fairly. He would have believed it too. But the truth is more complicated than we like to admit. Mitchell had grown up in a different time, in a different neighborhood, with different assumptions about how the world worked. And while he would never have considered himself prejudiced, he carried biases he couldn't even see. When he looked at students like Jamal, he saw potential problems, not potential. He saw kids who needed discipline structure, low expectations that could be managed. He didn't see this as racism. He saw it as realism. Kids from certain backgrounds, certain neighborhoods, certain families, they needed different approaches. Lower bars, simpler goals. Mitchell was not a villain. Not in the traditional sense. He wasn't cruel for the sake of cruelty. He didn't wake up in the morning planning to make anyone's life harder. He was in his own mind a dedicated educator doing his best with limited resources. But good intentions don't erase harm. And Mitchell's assumptions, his unconscious biases, his inability to see beyond his own limited perspective, these things created real damage. He just couldn't see it yet. He had a daughter in college studying pre-law. He had a wife who taught 3rd grade. He had a nice house in the suburbs, a comfortable life, a pension waiting for him in 8 years. He thought he understood the world. He thought he understood his students. He was about to learn how wrong he was. It was a Tuesday morning in early March when Assistant Principal Mrs. Vasquez made the announcement over the intercom. The Spring Talent Show, an annual tradition at Riverside High, a chance for students to showcase their abilities to perform in front of their peers, to have their moment in the spotlight. Mrs. Vasquez's voice crackled through the speakers in every classroom. The talent show would be held in 6 weeks on a Friday evening in mid-April. Any student could sign up. All talents were welcome. Singing, dancing, comedy instruments, poetry, anything. Auditions would be held in 2 weeks to determine the final lineup. In Mrs. Henderson's English class, Jamal felt his heart skip. His friend Deshawn, sitting next to him, immediately turned with wide eyes. "Yo, Jamal," Deshawn whispered. "You should do it." Jamal shook his head quickly. "Nah, man, seriously, you're incredible on that piano. People should hear you. Nobody even knows I play." Exactly, it's time they found out. Jamal's other friend, Tyler, leaned across the aisle. "For real, man. You got skills. Why you hiding them?" Because exposure felt dangerous. Because standing on a stage in front of the entire school meant being visible, and visibility meant vulnerability. What if people laughed? What if they didn't understand? What if he froze up there and embarrassed himself and his mother? But another part of him, a small but growing part, whispered something different. What if this was his chance? What if this was the moment he stopped being invisible? What if someone important saw him, someone who could help him reach those impossible dreams? "I'll think about it," Jamal said quietly. Deshawn grinned. "That's not a no." Over the next few days, his friends kept pushing. They believed in him in a way he struggled to believe in himself. His mother, when he finally mentioned it, lit up in a way he hadn't seen in months. "Baby, you should absolutely do it," she said, pulling him into a hug. "Your daddy would be so proud." The mention of his father made Jamal's chest tighten. His father had been the one who first sat him in front of a piano years ago before the cancer took him. Jamal had only been 9 years old, but he remembered his father's hands guiding his small fingers across the keys. "Music is magic, son," his father had said. "It says things words can't touch." Jamal decided. He would sign up, he would audition, he would play. He had no idea what he was about to walk into. The sign-up sheet for talent show auditions hung outside the music room. By the end of the first day, 23 students had added their names. Jamal approached it during lunch when the hallway was mostly empty. His hand trembled slightly as he wrote his name and piano, classical, in the talent column. Ms. Anderson, the music teacher, walked past just as he finished. She was in her early 30s, passionate about music education, always encouraging, always supportive. "Jamal Carter," she read over his shoulder. "I didn't know you played piano." "Yes, ma'am. Taught myself mostly. Mrs. Patterson at the community center helped some." Ms. Anderson's eyes widened. "Classical piano? That's ambitious. What piece are you thinking I was practicing Chopin?" "The first ballade." Her jaw actually dropped. "That's one of the most technically demanding pieces in the repertoire. Are you sure? I've been working on it for 6 months. I think I can do it." She studied him for a moment, then smiled. "I'd love to hear you play sometime. Come by after school if you want to practice on our grand piano. It's a lot better than most." "Really, thank you, Ms. Anderson. Of course. I'm excited to hear what you can do." That afternoon, Principal Mitchell was reviewing the sign-up sheet in his office. Mrs. Vasquez had brought it to him as a courtesy. He always liked to know what was happening, who was participating. He scanned the names, nodding at familiar faces, students he expected to see. Then he saw it. Jamal Carter. Piano. Classical. Mitchell frowned. He knew Jamal the way he knew most students. Quiet kid, low-income family, decent grades, but nothing exceptional. Never caused trouble, but never stood out either on a classical piano. "Mrs. Vasquez," he called out to his assistant principal, who was still in his office. "This Carter boy, he plays piano. That's what he wrote. Why, I've never heard anything about it. Seems odd. Maybe he's been practicing privately." Mitchell's frown deepened. "Classical music requires years of training, expensive lessons. I know his background. His mother works 2 jobs just to keep them afloat. When would he have time for piano lessons? Where would he get the money? Maybe he's self-taught. Or maybe someone's been helping him for free. Self-taught classical piano." Mitchell's tone carried clear skepticism. "That's not how it works. You can't just pick up Chopin on your own. This seems like wishful thinking." "Well, that's what auditions are for, right? We'll see what he can do." After Mrs. Vasquez left, Mitchell sat back in his chair, tapping his pen against his desk. Something about this bothered him. He'd seen it before, students signing up for things they weren't qualified for, setting themselves up for embarrassment. It usually came from a place of naivety, not understanding the level of skill required. He wondered if he should say something. Gently discourage the boy, help him understand that maybe he should pick something more realistic. But no better to let the audition process handle it naturally. When Jamal couldn't perform at the required level, he'd withdraw on his own. No harm done. Mitchell made a mental note and moved on to other matters. He had no idea that this small moment of dismissal, this casual assumption of inadequacy, was just the beginning of something much larger. The next day, Jamal ran into Principal Mitchell in the hallway. It was between classes, students rushing to their lockers, the usual controlled chaos of a high school corridor. Jamal was heading to his history class when Mitchell's voice stopped him. "Mr. Carter." Jamal turned. "Yes, sir." Mitchell approached, his expression neutral, but his eyes appraising. "I saw you signed up for the talent show." "Piano. I understand. Yes, sir. That's quite ambitious. Classical music is very technical, very demanding. I know, sir. I've been practicing. Where do you take lessons? Jamal hesitated. I don't, sir. I taught myself mostly. Mrs. Patterson at the community center helped me some. Mitchell's eyebrows rose slightly. Self-taught. I see. He adjusted his glasses, a habit when he was thinking. You know, Jamal, the talent show is in front of the entire school. It's a big stage, a lot of pressure. Have you considered that classical piano might be setting the bar a bit high for yourself? I can do it, sir. I'm sure you can play. That's not what I'm questioning. But there's a difference between playing and performing at a level appropriate for a school showcase. I wouldn't want you to set yourself up for disappointment. The words hung in the air between them. Jamal felt something cold settle in his stomach. It was the tone, the assumption, the way Mitchell's concern felt less like protection and more like prejudgment. I understand, sir. I still want to try. Mitchell sighed, the sound of a man who'd said his piece and wouldn't be held responsible for the consequences. Well, auditions will determine the lineup. We'll see how it goes. Just manage your expectations, son. Yes, sir. As Mitchell walked away, Jamal stood frozen in the hallway. Students flowed around him like water around a stone. The bell rang, signaling he was about to be late, but he couldn't move yet. His hands felt cold. His chest felt tight. Manage your expectations. The message was clear. Mitchell didn't believe he could do it. Didn't think he was capable. Didn't think a kid like him belonged on that stage playing Chopin. Deshawn appeared at his elbow. You good man, bell rang. Yeah, Jamal said quietly. I'm good. But he wasn't. For the rest of the day, Mitchell's words echoed in his head. That subtle dismissal, that gentle discouragement disguised as concern. It made him doubt himself in ways he hadn't before. Maybe Mitchell was right. Maybe he was overreaching. Maybe he didn't belong in that spotlight. That afternoon, Jamal almost didn't go to the music room to practice. He walked past it twice, hands in his pockets, telling himself it didn't matter, that he should just withdraw his name and forget the whole thing. But then he heard it. Piano music coming from inside the room. Someone was playing Debussy Clair de Lune, and they were playing it beautifully. Jamal pushed open the door and saw Ms. Anderson at the grand piano. Her eyes closed, lost in the music. She finished the piece and opened her eyes to find Jamal standing in the doorway. I didn't mean to interrupt, he said. You're not interrupting. Come in. She gestured to the piano. Want to show me what you've been working on? Jamal hesitated, then nodded. He sat at the bench, feeling the smooth keys under his fingers, so different from the sticky, worn keys at the community center. He took a breath and began to play. The opening of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 is deceptively simple. A few quiet notes, almost questioning, like someone testing the darkness before stepping into it. But then it builds layer upon layer, becoming more complex, more demanding, more emotionally intense. Jamal played the first section about 2 minutes of music before stopping. His hands were shaking slightly. He'd made a few mistakes, places where his fingers stumbled or the timing wasn't quite right. He waited for Ms. Anderson to tell him what Mitchell had implied, that this was beyond him, that he should pick something easier. Instead, she was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Jamal, she said slowly. How long have you been playing? About 5 years, ma'am. And you taught yourself this piece? Yes, ma'am. I listened to recordings, watched videos online, just kept practicing until I got it. Ms. Anderson shook her head, not in disappointment, but in amazement. That's extraordinary. You have real talent. Raw, yes, and you need refinement in your technique, but the musicality is there. The feel, That's something you can't teach. Jamal felt something warm spread through his chest, pushing back the cold that Mitchell's words had left behind. "You really think I can do this?" he asked. "I know you can, but you need proper practice time on a quality instrument. This piano is yours whenever the room is free. After school, during lunch, anytime. I'll help you with the technical aspects, the dynamics, the interpretation. We have 6 weeks. That's enough time if you're willing to work. I'm willing. Then let's get started." The next 3 weeks became a blur of practice. Jamal was at the school every day after classes ended, sometimes staying until the janitors started cleaning. Ms. Anderson worked with him on the technical challenges, the rapid passages that required perfect finger coordination, the dynamic contrasts that gave the piece its emotional power. But it wasn't easy. The Chopin Ballade is over 9 minutes of complex music. It requires not just technical skill, but stamina, emotional depth, interpretative maturity. There were days when Jamal felt like he'd never get it right, when his fingers wouldn't cooperate, when the music felt mechanical instead of meaningful. "You're thinking too much," Ms. Anderson would say. "Music isn't just about hitting the right notes at the right time. It's about telling a story." What story is this music telling you? Jamal thought about it. The story of struggle and triumph, of darkness and light, of someone fighting against odds that seemed impossible, pushing through pain and doubt to reach something beautiful on the other side. It was his story. Once he understood that, something shifted. The music stopped being a technical challenge and became an expression of everything he felt but couldn't say. His anger at being dismissed, his fear of failing, his determination to prove everyone wrong, his love for his mother who believed in him when no one else did, his grief for his father who never got to see what he'd become. All of it poured into the music. At home, his mother noticed the change in him. He was more focused, more driven. She would wake up at 5 in the morning to get ready for her nursing shift and find him already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with headphones on, listening to recordings of the ballade, his fingers moving silently through the motions on the table surface. "You're going to be amazing," she told him one morning, kissing the top of his head before leaving for work. "What if I'm not?" he asked. "Then you're still amazing for trying." "But baby, you will be. I know it." His friends rallied around him too. Deshaun and Tyler started calling him Maestro in the hallways, half joking but wholly supportive. Other students began to hear about Jamal Carter and his classical piano audition. Some were curious, some were skeptical, some didn't care one way or the other. But word spread, and word reached Principal Mitchell. He heard it from other teachers, from students, from Mrs. Vasquez. Jamal Carter was serious about this piano thing. He was practicing for hours every day. Ms. Anderson was helping him. He might actually be good. Mitchell found this information puzzling. He'd been so certain that the boy would drop out once he realized the difficulty of what he'd signed up for. Self-taught classical piano was a fantasy, not a reality, Yet here was evidence suggesting otherwise. It made Mitchell uncomfortable, though he couldn't have articulated why. Something about his assumptions being challenged. Something about a narrative he'd constructed being proven wrong. He pushed the feeling aside and focused on other matters. The auditions were scheduled for the first week of April. Over 30 students had signed up. They would audition in the auditorium one after another, and a panel of teachers would select the final lineup of 15 acts for the actual show. Jamal's audition was scheduled for a Wednesday afternoon. He woke up that morning with his stomach in knots. He barely touched his breakfast. His mother held his face in her hands before he left for school. "You've got this," she said firmly. "Don't you dare doubt yourself. You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am. Your daddy is watching. He's proud. I'm proud. Now go show them what you can do." But before the audition, before Jamal ever got his chance to prove himself, something happened that would make everything infinitely harder. Something that would test not just his skill, but his courage. The Friday before auditions, Principal Mitchell called an assembly. It was announced over the intercom during second period. All students were to report to the auditorium immediately after lunch. Attendance was mandatory. Assemblies at Riverside High were usually for one of three reasons: important announcements, visiting speakers, or disciplinary lectures. This one, Mrs. Vasquez explained over the intercom, was to discuss the upcoming talent show and build school spirit. The auditorium filled with students, the noise level rising as 500 teenagers found their seats. Teachers lined the walls, ensuring order. The stage was empty except for a podium and microphone. Principal Mitchell walked onto the stage, and the noise gradually died down. He adjusted the microphone, tapped it twice, and smiled at the assembled students. "Good afternoon, Riverside High." A scattered chorus of "Good afternoon" came back. As you all know, our spring talent show is next month, and auditions begin next week. This is one of my favorite events of the year. It's a chance for you to showcase your abilities, to step outside your comfort zones, to shine in front of your peers. Polite applause. I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all the students who've signed up. It takes courage to put yourself out there. I've reviewed the sign-up list, and I'm impressed by the variety of talents we'll be seeing. Singers, dancers, comedians, musicians of all kinds. He pulled out a piece of paper, the sign-up sheet, and began reading names. Each name received a small cheer from friends and classmates. Mitchell smiled, made encouraging comments, built up the excitement. Then he reached Jamal's name, Jamal Carter. Mitchell read, then paused. Piano, classical. There was a moment of confusion in the crowd. Students turned to look at each other. Who was Jamal Carter? Did anyone know he played piano? Mitchell continued, but his tone had changed. There was something in it now. Something that made Jamal, sitting in the middle section with Deshawn and Tyler, feel suddenly exposed. Now I have to admit, I was surprised to see classical piano on this list. That's quite an ambitious choice. It takes years of training, expensive lessons, dedicated practice. It's not something you just pick up. Some students laughed, uncertain whether this was a joke or not. Mitchell pressed on, and now there was no mistaking the condescension in his voice. "Mr. Carter, are you here?" Jamal's blood ran cold. Deshawn gripped his arm. "Don't," he whispered. But 500 faces were turning, scanning the rows, looking for who Mitchell was calling out. Jamal stood up slowly, his legs feeling like they might give out beneath him. "There you are," Mitchell said, pointing. "Come on down here, son. Let's talk about this." "Don't do it," Tyler hissed, but Jamal was already moving. The crowd parted as he made his way to the aisle, walked down to the front, climbed the stairs to the stage. His heart was pounding so hard he thought everyone could hear it. Mitchell put an arm around Jamal's shoulders, a gesture that might have looked friendly, but felt like a trap. "Jamal here has signed up to play classical piano. Chopin, I'm told. That's very impressive, isn't it, everyone?" A few uncertain claps. "Now, Jamal, I'm curious. Where did you study piano?" "I taught myself, sir," Jamal said quietly. The microphone picked up his voice, sending it through the auditorium speakers, amplifying his vulnerability. "Self-taught. Really? And how long have you been playing?" "About 5 years, sir." 5 years. Self-taught." Mitchell turned to the audience, his expression theatrical. "Let me tell you something about classical piano students. It's one of the most difficult instruments to master. Professional pianists study for decades. They start as young children with private teachers who charge hundreds of dollars per hour. They practice 8-10 hours a day. And even then, pieces like Chopin are considered the pinnacle of technical achievement. The implication was clear. The message was unmistakable. So Jamal Mitchell continued, his voice dripping with false kindness. I just want to make sure you understand what you're signing up for. This isn't Chopsticks or Heart and Soul. This is serious professional level music. I wouldn't want you to embarrass yourself up here. The auditorium was completely silent now. Jamal felt tears burning in his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Let me ask you this, Mitchell said, and now he was fully playing to the crowd. Can you even play Chopsticks? Laughter rippled through the auditorium. Not everyone, but enough to feel like a wave crashing over him. Maybe we should lower the bar a little, Mitchell continued. Perhaps something simpler. Hot cross buns. Mary had a little lamb. More laughter. Louder now. Jamal stood there, frozen, humiliated, feeling the weight of 500 pairs of eyes on him. He wanted to run. He wanted to disappear. He wanted to sink through the stage floor and never come back. In the audience, Ms. Anderson stood up, her face flushed with anger. Principal Mitchell, that's enough. Mitchell turned, surprised by the interruption. Excuse me, that's enough, she repeated louder. Jamal is an incredibly talented musician. I've heard him play. He's more than capable of performing classical music. Ms. Anderson, I appreciate your support of your students, but let's be realistic here. Classical piano requires, I know what it requires. I have a degree in music performance. Jamal has been practicing the Chopin ballade for months. He's ready. The auditorium buzzed with this new information. Mitchell's smile faltered slightly. Well, he said recovering quickly. We'll see at the auditions, won't we? Actions speak louder than words. He turned back to Jamal. You can return to your seat, Mr. Carter. Jamal walked back down the stage stairs, through the silent auditorium, up the aisle to his seat. Every step felt like walking through concrete. He sat down between Deshawn and Tyler, who immediately put their hands on his shoulders, offering wordless support. The assembly continued, but Jamal didn't hear any of it. His ears were ringing. His face burned with shame. His hands were shaking. Principal Mitchell had just humiliated him in front of the entire school, made him a joke, turned his dream into a punchline. And the worst part was the laughter. The way his classmates had laughed, along with Mitchell joining in the mockery, validating the principal's cruelty. When the assembly finally ended and students began filing out, Jamal sat frozen in his seat. He couldn't move, couldn't face walking through the hallways, hearing the whispers, feeling the stares. Jamal Deshawn said quietly, "Don't listen to him. That was messed up." "He's right, though," Jamal whispered. "I'm not good enough. I'm just some kid who doesn't know what he's doing." "That's not true," Tyler insisted. "Ms. Anderson said you were amazing. She wouldn't lie about that." But Jamal barely heard him. Something had broken inside him during that assembly. Some fragile confidence had shattered under the weight of Mitchell's public ridicule. He stood up slowly and walked out of the auditorium, ignoring his friends calling after him. He walked past Ms. Anderson, who tried to stop him, tried to tell him not to give up. He walked through the hallways in a daze out the front doors off school property. He went home even though it was only 1 in the afternoon. His mother was at work. The apartment was empty and quiet. Jamal went to his room, closed the door, and lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. He'd never felt so small in his entire life. Jamal didn't go back to school that afternoon. He texted Deshawn that he was sick, turned off his phone, and lay in his room as the hours passed. His mother came home from her nursing shift around 6, immediately sensing something was wrong. "Baby, what happened?" He told her everything. The assembly, Mitchell's words, the laughter, the humiliation. As he spoke, Tears finally came, the ones he'd been holding back all afternoon. His mother sat on his bed and pulled him into her arms, holding him while he cried. "That man had no right," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "No right at all to treat you like that. He's right though, Mama. I'm just fooling myself. I can't play like those real pianists. I'm nobody. Stop that right now." She pulled back, holding his face, so he had to look at her. "You are not nobody. You are Jamal Carter. You are my son. You are your father's son. And you have a gift. It's not enough. It's more than enough. And you know what? You're going to prove that to everyone." "I can't, Mama. I can't stand up there after what happened. Everyone will just laugh again." His mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and left the room. Jamal heard her moving around in her bedroom drawers, opening and closing. She came back carrying a small wooden box he'd never seen before. She sat back down and opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age, and a photograph. The photograph showed Jamal's father at a piano, much younger, smiling at the camera. "Your daddy never told you this," she said softly. "But when he was about your age, he wanted to be a musician, a jazz pianist. He was good too. Really good." Jamal stared at the photograph. "I didn't know that." "His father, your grandfather, told him it was a waste of time. Said black boys from the neighborhood didn't become musicians. Said he needed to focus on getting a real job, a practical career. Your daddy, he believed it. He gave up. Stopped playing. Got a job at the factory instead." She unfolded the piece of paper. It was a letter written in his father's handwriting. He wrote this a few months before he died. "I found it in his things after. He never gave it to you because he thought you were too young. But I think you need to hear it now." She cleared her throat and began to read, "Jamal, my son. By the time you read this, I'll be gone, and I hope that's many years from now when you're a grown man with children of your own. But I need you to know something. My biggest regret in life isn't that I got sick. It isn't even that I won't get to see you grow up, though God knows that breaks my heart. My biggest regret is that I gave up on my dreams because someone told me they were impossible. I let fear and other people's doubts stop me from becoming who I was meant to be. Don't do what I did, son. Don't let anyone tell you you're not good enough. Don't let anyone make you smaller than you are. If you have a gift, you honor it. You fight for it. You don't let it die because the world is cruel or because someone with authority tells you to be realistic. Music is magic, Jamal. It's the one thing in this world that can transform pain into beauty, that can speak truths words can't touch. If you have that gift, you use it. You share it. You let it shine, no matter who tells you not to. I love you. I believe in you. And I'll be watching always. Make me proud. Make yourself proud. Be brave enough to be who you really are." By the end, both Jamal and his mother were crying. She folded the letter carefully and handed it to him. "Your daddy didn't get his chance," she said, "but you have yours. And that man, that principal, he's just like your grandfather, telling you to be small, to limit yourself, to accept less. Are you going to let him win? Are you going to prove him right?" Jamal held the letter. His father's words, his father's regret, his father's hope. Something shifted inside him. The humiliation was still there, the fear was still there, but underneath it all, something harder was forming. Anger, determination, resolve. "No," he said quietly. "What was that no? I'm not going to let him win." His mother smiled through her tears. "That's my boy. I'm going to that audition, and I'm going to play better than I've ever played in my life. And everyone who laughed, everyone who doubted, everyone who thought I was a joke, they're going to have to listen. They're going to have to see me. Yes, they are. I'm doing this for Daddy, and for me, and for every kid who gets told they're not good enough." His mother pulled him into another hug. "Your father would be so proud. I am so proud." That night, Jamal couldn't sleep. He lay in bed with his headphones on, listening to recordings of the ballade, his fingers moving through the motions, visualizing every note, every phrase, every dynamic change. He was done being invisible. He was done being dismissed. Mitchell had tried to break him. Instead, he'd forged him into something stronger. The next morning, Jamal returned to school. Word of the assembly incident had spread, of course. Some students gave him sympathetic looks. Others smirked as he walked past. He kept his head up and kept walking. Deshaun and Tyler found him at his locker before first period. "You came back," Deshaun said, relief obvious in his voice. "I'm not quitting," Jamal said simply. "Hell yeah," Tyler grinned. "That's what I'm talking about." At lunch, Jamal went to the music room to practice. He found Ms. Anderson there, and she immediately stood up when she saw him. "Jamal, I am so sorry about yesterday. What Principal Mitchell did was completely inappropriate. I've already filed a formal complaint with the school board." "Thank you, Ms. Anderson." "But I'm not quitting." She smiled, pride evident on her face. "Good. Let's get to work." They practiced for the entire lunch period. Ms. Anderson helped him refine the performance, focusing on the interpretation, the emotional arc of the piece. She taught him about dynamics, about rubato, about how to use silence as powerfully as sound. "Music is communication," she said. "You're not just playing notes. You're telling everyone listening exactly who you are. So who are you, Jamal?" "I'm someone who doesn't give up." "Then make them feel that." But the obstacles were just beginning. That afternoon, Jamal went to the music room after school for his usual practice session. He found the door locked. Confused, he checked the schedule posted outside. The room was supposed to be available until 5 p.m. He found the janitor, Mr. Peterson, down the hall. "Excuse me, Mr. Peterson. The music room is locked." "Yeah, Principal Mitchell told me to lock it. Said it's not available for general student use anymore. Something about needing to preserve the piano. But I've been practicing there every day." "Sorry, kid. Principal's orders." Jamal felt anger rising in his chest. This was intentional. Mitchell was trying to sabotage him, trying to make it impossible to practice. He went to the office and asked to speak with Principal Mitchell. The secretary told him Mitchell was in a meeting. He waited for 45 minutes, but Mitchell never emerged. Finally, the secretary told him he'd have to come back another day. Jamal left the school frustrated and angry. He went to the community center, but the old upright piano was even worse than he remembered. The keys stuck, the pedals didn't work right, the sound was tinny and weak. He couldn't practice the ballad properly on this instrument. It required the subtlety and range of a quality piano. He texted Ms. Anderson, explaining the situation. She responded immediately, "This is unacceptable. I'll talk to Mitchell tomorrow. In the meantime, I'll give you my house address. I have a piano there. You can practice anytime." The next day, Ms. Anderson confronted Mitchell in his office. Jamal didn't witness it, but he heard about it later from Tyler, whose mother worked in the school office. "You need to unlock the music room," Ms. Anderson had said. "The piano is school property." "I have the right to restrict access," Mitchell replied. "You're doing this because of Jamal Carter, because you embarrassed yourself at that assembly and now you're trying to stop him from succeeding. That's a serious accusation, Ms. Anderson. It's the truth. You humiliated that boy in front of the entire school, and now you're sabotaging his ability to prepare for his audition. I've filed a formal complaint, and if this continues, I'll go to the local news." Mitchell's jaw tightened. He didn't like being challenged, but he also didn't want negative attention, didn't want parents asking questions about why he'd publicly mocked a student and then prevented him from practicing. "Fine," he said coldly. "The music room will be available. But Ms. Anderson, I'd watch your tone. You're still my employee, and you're still supposed to support students, not tear them down." The music room was unlocked that afternoon. Jamal practiced there every day after school sometimes, until the janitors started turning off lights. Ms. Anderson stayed late most days, helping him, encouraging him, refusing to let Mitchell's cruelty extinguish this boy's dream. Other teachers began to hear about what was happening. Some quietly offered their support. A few even donated money to help pay for Jamal to have a few professional lessons with a pianist Ms. Anderson knew in the city. It wasn't much, but it helped. The student body was split. Some, inspired by what Jamal was attempting, began to root for him. Others, influenced by Mitchell's mockery, continued to treat it as a joke. There were TikToks, made memes, shared cruel comments posted on social media. But there were also messages of support. Students Jamal had never met sending him encouragement. A few upperclassmen who'd experienced similar dismissals from teachers, telling him to keep fighting. The audition was now days away. Jamal practiced until his fingers ached, until he could play the entire ballade in his sleep, until the music was so deeply embedded in his muscle memory that his hands moved on their own. He was ready. The question was whether the school was ready for him. Wednesday, April 3rd, audition day. Jamal woke up at 5 in the morning, his stomach a tangle of nerves. He got dressed carefully, choosing a simple button-down shirt and dark jeans, the closest thing he had to formal clothes. His mother was already up making him breakfast, even though he told her he couldn't eat. "You need energy," she insisted, putting a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of him. He managed to eat half of it before his stomach rebelled. His mother sat across from him, holding her coffee mug, watching him with those eyes that saw everything. "How you feeling? Terrified?" "Good. That means it matters. What if I mess up? What if I freeze? What if Mitchell was right and I'm just embarrassing myself?" "Then you mess up. You freeze. You embarrass yourself. And you know what? You'll still be brave. You'll still be my son. You'll still be exactly who you're supposed to be." She reached across the table and took his hand. "But you won't mess up. You're going to walk in there, sit at that piano, and you're going to play like your life depends on it. Because in some ways it does. Not your actual life, but the life you want. The life you deserve. You're fighting for that today." Jamal squeezed her hand. "I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Now go show them." School was surreal. Classes felt endless, the hours stretching like taffy. His friends tried to keep him distracted, but his mind was elsewhere. On the auditorium. On the piano. On the 9 minutes and 37 seconds of Chopin's ballade that would determine everything. The auditions were scheduled to begin at 3:30 immediately after school let out. Students were auditioning in the order they'd signed up. Jamal was number 17 out of 32. That meant waiting, listening to others perform first, letting the anxiety build. At 3:15, students began gathering in the auditorium. The panel of judges, 5 teachers, including Ms. Anderson and Principal Mitchell, sat in the center section. Mitchell had insisted on being part of the panel, citing his responsibility as principal to oversee all school events. Ms. Anderson had argued against it, saying he'd demonstrated bias. He'd ignored her. The auditorium filled with students who'd signed up to audition, plus friends and supporters. It wasn't a public performance, just the auditions, but word had spread enough that about 50 students were there to watch. Jamal sat in the back row, his hands clasped between his knees to keep them from shaking. Deshawn and Tyler sat on either side of him, silent and supportive. The auditions began. A girl sang Ariana Grande. A boy did a stand-up comedy routine. A group performed a choreographed dance. Some were good. Some were mediocre. Some were honestly terrible. But everyone received polite applause, and the judges took notes without comment. Jamal watched the numbers count down. 14, 15, 16. Then his name was called. Jamal Carter. Piano. He stood up. His legs felt disconnected from his body. Deshawn grabbed his arm. "You got this, maestro." Jamal walked down the aisle. Every eye in the auditorium was on him. He could feel the weight of expectations, the memory of the assembly, the knowledge that so many people were waiting for him to fail. He reached the stage and climbed the steps. The grand piano sat center stage, lid open, bench waiting. The stage lights were bright, making it hard to see the judges' faces clearly. Maybe that was better. Principal Mitchell's voice came from the darkness of the audience. "Proceed when ready, Mr. Carter." Jamal sat at the bench, adjusted his position, placed his hands on the keys, closed his eyes for just a moment. He thought about his father, about the letter, about the dream his father had abandoned, about the dream he was fighting for. He thought about his mother working 2 jobs so he could have chances she never had. He thought about Ms. Anderson, who'd believed in him when no one else did. He thought about every kid who'd ever been told they weren't good enough, weren't the right type, weren't from the right background. And then he stopped thinking entirely. He began to play. The opening notes of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor are quiet, almost hesitant. A simple melodic line, questioning, searching. Jamal's hands moved across the keys with the lightness of someone tracing a memory. In the audience, the whispers stopped. People leaned forward. The music began to build. The questioning melody gave way to something more assured, more complex. Jamal's left hand established a steady rhythm, while his right hand wove intricate patterns above it. His fingers moved with precision, each note clear and distinct, each phrase shaped with intention. Ms. Anderson, sitting in the judges' panel, felt tears prick her eyes. This was better than she'd ever heard him play. He wasn't just technically proficient. He was communicating something deep and true. The piece continued to develop. Chopin's Ballade tells a story without words. It moves through different emotional territories, longing, agitation, conflict, brief moments of peace that are always interrupted. It's a journey, and Jamal was taking everyone on it with him. His body moved with the music. Not dramatically, not for show, but in the natural way that musicians do when they're fully immersed. He swayed slightly, with the phrases his shoulders rising and falling, with the dynamics his face reflecting the emotional content of what he was playing. In the audience, students who'd laughed at the assembly were silent now. Some had pulled out their phones recording. Others just watched, transfixed. Principal Mitchell sat rigid in his seat, his expression unreadable, but his hands clasped in his lap were white-knuckled. The piece moved into its first major climax. The music became more agitated, more urgent. Jamal's hands flew across the keyboard, executing rapid passages that required years of practice to master. His left hand pounded out powerful bass notes, while his right hand danced in the upper register, the 2 hands creating a conversation between opposing forces. Then suddenly a moment of stillness. The music pulled back, became quiet and introspective. This is one of the most challenging aspects of the ballade, the emotional contrasts, the ability to shift from powerful and dramatic to soft and vulnerable within seconds. Jamal navigated these shifts perfectly. In the quiet sections, you could hear individual notes ringing out, each one weighted with meaning. In the loud sections, the piano filled the entire auditorium with sound, but it never became just noise. Every note had purpose. The middle section of the ballad features a beautiful singing melody. This is where Jamal connected most deeply with his father's memory. He played these phrases with such tenderness, such love, that several people in the audience openly cried. Ms. Anderson wasn't the only one. Students who'd come to watch, thinking it might be entertaining to see someone fail, found themselves moved by something they didn't fully understand. Music has that power. It bypasses the thinking mind and speaks directly to something deeper. The piece began building toward its final climax. The music became more and more intense, more complex, more demanding. Jamal's hands moved so fast they blurred. His whole body was engaged now, using his weight to create the powerful fortissimo passages, pulling back for the moments of tenderness. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His jaw was set with concentration, but his eyes, when he occasionally opened them, were clear and focused. He was in complete control. The final section of the ballade is a coda, a culmination of everything that's come before. It's technically one of the most difficult passages in the piano repertoire. Rapid scales octave, passages in both hands, enormous dynamic range, perfect timing required. Jamal played it flawlessly. The music rushed toward its conclusion like a river reaching the ocean. Powerful, inevitable, overwhelming. The final chord rang out a resolution that felt both triumphant and bittersweet. Jamal held the chord, let it sustain until it faded to silence. Then he took his hands off the keys and sat perfectly still. The auditorium was completely silent. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. The silence stretched heavy with the weight of what they'd just witnessed. Then someone stood up. It was Deshaun in the back row. He started clapping. Then Tyler joined him. Then the student next to them. Then the whole back row. Then the entire auditorium erupted. Students stood applauding, some shouting, some crying. The ovation built and built, wave after wave of sound washing over the stage. Jamal sat at the piano, stunned. He hadn't expected this. He'd expected polite applause, maybe, or uncomfortable silence. He hadn't expected this outpouring of emotion, this recognition, this vindication. Anderson was on her feet, clapping so hard her hands hurt, tears streaming down her face openly now. The other judges stood as well, all except one. Principal Mitchell remained seated, his face pale, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. He looked like a man who'd just watched his entire world-view shatter. Slowly, reluctantly, like it was being pulled from him against his will, he stood. He didn't clap, but he stood. The ovation continued for 3 full minutes. Students were recording it, posting it in real time to social media. The video would be viral by that evening, but Jamal didn't know that yet. He finally stood and gave a small bow, overwhelmed, not sure what else to do. The applause grew even louder. When it finally began to die down, Ms. Anderson spoke into the microphone, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Jamal. That was extraordinary." Jamal walked off the stage in a daze. His legs felt weak. His heart was pounding. Deshaun and Tyler met him at the bottom of the stage stairs, grabbing him into a fierce hug. "That was insane," Deshaun said. "That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. You destroyed it," Tyler added. "Absolutely destroyed it." Other students crowded around, wanting to congratulate him, shake his hand, tell him how amazing it was. People who hadn't spoken to him in years, people who'd laughed at the assembly. They all wanted to be part of this moment now. Jamal accepted their praise with quiet grace, still processing what had just happened. From across the auditorium, he saw Principal Mitchell stand up and leave through the side exit, not looking back. The auditions continued, but no one could focus. The 32 students who'd signed up had all prepared their acts, and they all deserved their moment. But the energy had shifted. What Jamal had just done had changed the entire tenor of the afternoon. When all the auditions were finally complete, The judges huddled to discuss the final lineup. It was a formality. Everyone knew Jamal had not only made the cut, but had essentially become the centerpiece of the entire show. Ms. Anderson found Jamal in the hallway outside the auditorium. He was sitting on the floor, back against the lockers, trying to calm down. She sat down next to him. "You know what you just did, right?" she said quietly. "I played Chopin. You did more than that. You showed everyone exactly who you are. You showed them what talent and determination and courage look like. You changed minds today, Jamal. Changed hearts." Mitchell didn't applaud. No, he didn't. But he stood up, and for him that might be the hardest thing he's ever done. Admitting he was wrong. Watching his assumptions crumble. "I don't think I changed his mind." "Maybe not yet, but you planted a seed. Sometimes that's all we can do." The final talent show lineup was posted the next day. Jamal's name was there, of course. Slot number 14 out of 15. The penultimate performance, the second to last spot, traditionally reserved for the strongest acts. The show was scheduled for Friday, April 19th, 2 weeks away. But before the show could happen, before Jamal could perform again, something else occurred that would change everything once more. The video. Multiple students had recorded Jamal's audition performance. They'd posted it to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. By Thursday morning, less than 24 hours after the audition, the video had gone viral. Not just locally, nationally. The video was captioned, "Black teen silences high school after principal mocked his piano dreams." It showed the performance in full, showed the standing ovation, showed the tears and the emotion. The comments section exploded. "This made me cry. That principal should be ashamed. This kid has more talent in his little finger than most professional musicians. The way everyone stood up. I can't." By Friday, the video had 2 million views. By Saturday, 5 million. News outlets started picking it up. Local news in their city ran a story. Then regional news. Then national. Reporters started calling the school, asking for interviews. Asking about the principal who'd mocked the student. Asking about the context, the backstory, the drama. Riverside High School was suddenly in the national spotlight, and Principal Mitchell was at the center of it. The school board called an emergency meeting. The following Monday, Principal Mitchell was called into a meeting with the school board superintendent, 3 board members, and a representative from the district's Human Resources Department. He sat in the conference room, still wearing his suit and tie, still maintaining his professional composure, but there was no hiding the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. The superintendent, Dr. Patricia Williams, a black woman in her late 50s, who'd worked her way up from teacher to administrator over 30 years, sat across from him with a tablet showing the viral video. 5 million views, Robert. She said, her voice measured, but firm. 5 million people have watched you humiliate a student. 5 million people have seen that boy prove you wrong. Do you understand the position this puts the district in? It was a misunderstanding, Mitchell said. I was trying to encourage realistic expectations. You called him out in front of the entire school, Doctor, Williams interrupted. You made a joke at his expense. You suggested he wasn't capable of playing classical music. And then, when he proved you wrong, you couldn't even applaud. I did stand barely, and far too late. She closed the tablet. We've received over 300 complaints from parents in the last 3 days. We've received calls from civil rights organizations. The NAACP has issued a statement. This isn't just about one incident, Robert. This is about a pattern of behavior that we can no longer ignore. Mitchell's face flushed. A pattern I've been principal here for 7 years. My record. Your record shows multiple complaints from families of color about dismissive treatment, Der Williams said, pulling out a file. Teachers have raised concerns about your attitudes toward certain students. We've been willing to overlook these as isolated incidents, as miscommunications. But this video has brought everything into sharp focus. One of the board members, Mr. Chen, spoke up. The question isn't whether you're a racist, Mitchell. The question is whether you've allowed unconscious biases to affect how you treat students, and whether you're willing to recognize and address those biases. Mitchell sat in silence, his jaw working. The truth was, he'd spent the last 4 days in a state of shock. Watching the video, watching himself through other people's eyes, had been deeply uncomfortable. He'd seen himself as caring, as realistic, as trying to protect a student from embarrassment. But the video showed something else. It showed condescension. It showed prejudice. It showed a man so certain of his assumptions that he'd publicly humiliated a child. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally. Several things Dr. Williams said. First, a public apology to Jamal Carter and his family. A real one, not a corporate non-apology. You need to acknowledge specifically what you did wrong and why it was harmful. Second, Mr. Chen added, you'll undergo mandatory training on implicit bias, cultural competency, and equitable leadership practices. Not a one-day workshop. A semester-long program. Third, Dr. Williams continued, you'll be on probation for the remainder of the school year. Any further incidents and your employment will be terminated. Mitchell's hands gripped the arms of his chair. His career, his reputation, everything he'd built was hanging by a thread. Part of him wanted to argue to defend himself, to insist that everyone was overreacting. But he couldn't. Because in his most honest moments, when he allowed himself to really look at what he'd done, he couldn't deny it. He'd been wrong. He'd hurt a kid. He'd let his assumptions override his responsibility as an educator. I'll do it, he said quietly. The apology, the training, all of it. The apology happens today, Dr. Williams said. We've arranged for you to meet with Jamal and his mother this afternoon. You'll apologize to them privately first. Then at the talent show on Friday, you'll apologize publicly to the entire school. Mitchell nodded, feeling something heavy settle in his chest. Shame. Genuine, uncomfortable shame. That afternoon, he sat in his office across from Jamal and Diana Carter. The boy looked at him with guarded eyes. The mother looked at him with barely contained anger. Ms. Carter. Jamal Mitchell began, his voice rough. I owe you both an apology. What I did at that assembly was wrong. It was hurtful, it was inappropriate, and it reflected biases that I didn't even realize I carried. Diana Carter's eyes were hard. You humiliated my son in front of his entire school. I did, and I have no excuse for it. I made assumptions about Jamal based on his background, his circumstances, things that had nothing to do with his actual abilities. I let those assumptions guide my actions, and I caused real harm. Jamal spoke for the first time, his voice quiet but steady. Why did you do it? Why did you think I couldn't play? Mitchell took a long breath. This was the hard part, the honest part, because I've spent my whole life seeing the world a certain way. I grew up being taught, without anyone actually saying it, that certain people belonged in certain places, that kids from wealthy families were destined for success, and kids from struggling families needed to be realistic about their limitations. I never questioned those beliefs. I never examined where they came from or whether they were true. He met Jamal's eyes directly. You challenged those beliefs just by existing, by daring to dream of something I thought was beyond you. And instead of celebrating that, instead of supporting you, I tried to make you smaller. I tried to fit you into the box I'd created. That was my failure, not yours. And I am truly sorry. Jamal was quiet for a moment. Ms. Anderson believed in me. She did. She saw what I couldn't, or wouldn't. Are you going to change? Diana asked. Or is this just words to save your job? Mitchell considered this. I hope to change. I'm going to try. But I know that's not something I can promise you'll believe. I can only show you through my actions going forward." Diana nodded slowly. "My son is going to perform at that talent show, and he's going to be brilliant. I want you to watch him. Really watch him. And I want you to think about every other student you might be underestimating, every other kid you're putting in a box. I will. I promise you I will." After they left, Mitchell sat alone in his office for a long time. He thought about his 25 years in education. How many students had he failed? How many kids had he dismissed, discouraged, underestimated? How many Jamals had he never given a chance? The thought made him physically ill. While Mitchell was facing consequences, Jamal's life was transforming in ways he'd never imagined. The viral video brought attention from people and organizations he'd never dreamed of reaching. A scholarship committee from the Juilliard School's pre-college program reached out offering him a full scholarship for their summer intensive. The program cost $15,000 normally. They were waiving all fees, including travel and housing. A classical music foundation that provided instruments to low-income students contacted Diana, offering to provide Jamal with a professional-quality digital piano for home practice. Local musicians started reaching out, offering free lessons mentorship connections to opportunities. Ms. Anderson had tears in her eyes when she showed Jamal the email from Juilliard. "Do you understand what this is? This is one of the most prestigious music programs in the world. Students train their entire lives hoping to get in, and they're inviting you." Jamal stared at the email, reading it 3 times to make sure it was real. "I'd have to go to New York for the summer, yes. 8 weeks of intensive training with world-class instructors. It would change your life." His mother, when he told her, actually screamed with joy. She grabbed him and spun him around their tiny kitchen, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. "Your father," she kept saying. "Your father would be so proud, so proud." But beyond the opportunities, beyond the accolades and the attention, something else had shifted for Jamal. He walked differently through the school hallways now, not with arrogance, but with confidence. He no longer tried to be invisible. He'd learned that visibility, while scary, could also be powerful. Other students approached him with their own stories. Kids who'd been told they weren't smart enough, talented enough, good enough. Kids who'd been dismissed by teachers, overlooked by administrators, written off before they'd even had a chance. "You showed us we can fight back," one girl told him. "Not with violence, not with anger, but with excellence. You proved them wrong just by being yourself." Jamal became somewhat accidentally a symbol, not just at his school, but in the broader conversation about education equity and the biases that limit children's potential. He gave an interview to a local news station. The reporter asked him what he wanted people to take away from his story. "That everyone deserves a chance," he said. "Not just kids who look a certain way or come from certain neighborhoods. Everyone has something special inside them. Adults in power, they need to look harder. They need to see past their assumptions." The interview aired on the evening news. More outlets picked it up. The story grew. Deshaun started calling him famous, half joking, but half serious. Tyler created a fan club, mostly as a joke, but it actually got members. Through it all, Jamal tried to stay grounded. He kept practicing, kept focusing on the music. The talent show was still coming, and this time the audience would be different. This time everyone would be watching. This time there would be no doubt. Friday, April 19th, the night of the spring talent show. The auditorium was packed. Every seat filled, people standing in the back, parents and community members who'd heard the story and wanted to witness the follow-up. Local news crews were there, positioned in the back with their cameras. The energy in the room was electric. Principal Mitchell stood backstage, preparing to give the opening remarks. His hands shook slightly as he held his index cards. Dr. Williams stood nearby, a reminder of what was required of him. The lights dimmed. Mitchell walked onto the stage. The crowd quieted. "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Riverside High's Spring Talent Show." His voice was steady, but his face showed the strain. "Before we begin, I need to say something. A few weeks ago, I made a serious mistake. I publicly humiliated a student, Jamal Carter, based on assumptions and biases I didn't even realize I carried." The auditorium was silent. Jamal proved me wrong in the most beautiful way possible. He showed exceptional talent, courage, and grace. He showed me and everyone watching that our preconceptions about what people can achieve are often rooted in prejudice rather than reality. Mitchell's voice wavered. "I apologize to Jamal, to his family, and to every student I've ever underestimated. I'm committed to doing better, to being better. Thank you." He left the stage to scattered, uncertain applause. The show began. 14 acts performed before Jamal's. Each was good in its own way, but everyone was waiting for what came next. Finally, Ms. Anderson took the microphone. "Our next performer needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamal Carter." The applause was immediate and thunderous. Jamal walked onto the stage wearing a suit that Ms. Anderson had helped his mother buy, looking every bit the professional musician he was becoming. He sat at the piano, adjusted his position, placed his hands on the keys, and he played. He played the same piece he'd performed at auditions, Chopin's Ballade No. 1. But this time was different. This time he wasn't playing to prove himself. He wasn't playing out of anger or defiance. He was playing because this was who he was. This was his voice. This was his truth. The music filled the auditorium, and everyone listened. Really listened. Not waiting for him to fail, not watching with skepticism, but truly hearing the story he was telling through Chopin's notes. 9 minutes and 37 seconds later, when the final chord faded, the standing ovation was instantaneous. People cheered, cried, shouted their support. The applause went on for 5 full minutes. Jamal stood and bowed, looking out at the crowd. He saw his mother in the 3rd row, tears streaming down her face. He saw Ms. Anderson with her hands over her heart. He saw his friends going absolutely wild. He saw students he'd never met standing and cheering for him. And in the back near the exit, he saw Principal Mitchell standing, clapping, tears on his face too. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was acknowledgement. It was the beginning of change. As Jamal left the stage, he felt something settle inside him. Peace. Validation. The knowledge that he'd honored his father's memory, supported his mother's sacrifices, and opened a door not just for himself, but for every kid who'd ever been told they couldn't. He'd stopped being invisible. He'd become unforgettable. 3 months later, on a warm July afternoon, Jamal Carter stood in front of the Juilliard School building in New York City. His mother stood next to him, her arm around his shoulders, both of them looking up at the impressive structure. "You ready for this?" she asked. "I think so. You earned this, baby. Every bit of it." They walked inside together, ready to begin the summer intensive that would change the trajectory of Jamal's entire life. Back at Riverside High, Principal Mitchell sat in his office working through the summer to complete his bias training. He had pictures on his desk now. Reminders. One of them was a screenshot from the viral video showing Jamal at the piano, hands on the keys about to play. Mitchell kept it there to remember. To never forget what assumptions cost. To never again underestimate the potential of any student who walked through his doors. Anderson continued teaching, more passionate than ever, about finding and nurturing talent wherever it existed, regardless of circumstance or background. And in homes across the country, other kids watched Jamal's video and thought for the first time that maybe their dreams weren't impossible after all. Maybe they too could be seen. maybe they too could be heard. One moment can change everything. One performance can shift perspectives. One person standing up and saying, "I am capable," can inspire thousands more to do the same. Jamal Carter played Chopin that day in the auditorium. But what he really played was a song of possibility, of resilience, of refusing to accept other people's limitations. And the whole world stopped to listen.